Dun, dun, dun. After having technical issues, we are here. So,
Wow.
welcome to Friday with Friends. I am Simon Brooks, and that is Antonio
And
Rocha.
that and that is Simon Brooks. All right.
Antonio and I have been we're used to doing all these kinds of things, but he's never done StreamYard before. And I thought, oh, he'll be all right. We'll just log right in and it'll be a breeze. And then,
Nope.
of course, at 22, everything went to down south in a handbasket pretty quickly. And then my computer logged up. So it's all been a bit manic. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Simon. How are you doing? It's
Not
good
too.
to be here with you. It's a pleasure and an honor
No,
to get to spend time with you. And and thank you for all of you who are logged in. Now, since this is my first time, do I see the names of the people watching? Do we know who they are? Do we know?
So I can pop this button and it pops it up. So
Janice Del Negro. Hello, Janice.
Now
I see you're here.
We are both very honored, highly honored to have Janice here with us. Janice, you got to join me on one of these things. We don't know each other that well, but I think we would learn each other very well, get to know each other pretty well, pretty quickly. I'd like to do that maybe one day. Anyway, so yes, technical issues are done. Tom Davis from Stone Soup, he might still be around. I don't know. He might have gone. I did send him a message saying that we had technical issues.
All right.
Oh my gosh. Isn't it humid? Isn't it hot? Isn't it wonderful?
It is. It's humid and hot today in Maine.
Yeah. And you're wearing black?
Oh no, this is just a shirt. It's not, I'm inside. So wearing black inside does not change. It only changes if the sun is hitting on you.
Yeah.
That's the only time the problem pops in. But I shaved and I cut myself, so it's not somebody's lipstick.
Oh, it's not? Well, that's good. Well, unless it's your wife's. You know, where I normally nick myself is right here.
Yes.
And then it looks like a big nasty zit, and I hate that. But anyway.
Now, is there so Janice Del Negro, she said hello.
Yeah.
And now where is she?
We've got lots of people. Janice is in Chicago.
No.
Oh.
Like in Zoom, there's a chat.
Right.
Yes.
So what happens is, folks, you're going to hear what I normally give my guests offline. So on my screen, I have a column on the right-hand side that shows me all the comments that are coming in through Facebook. And so what I can do is I can pop them. And so Jess Willis is here.
Yes.
And my good friend, Scott Moore. Yes, we are resolved. We are on the move. We are getting on with the show. And then I can click them and they vanish. So if you're doing something, you're not distracted by the comments at the bottom. So I'm in total control of that. And if somebody says something nasty, then you never have to see it unless you go on Facebook afterwards and have a look.
I love to see it. Live comments. I'm seeing everybody here now.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I see people. Scott Moore, Jen.
Yeah. Jess Willis. She's been a really good follower, actually. I need to find out who she is. And Scott's a good friend of mine. So he's there's a summer camp that he does, which is remarkable. He's been doing it for years. I think he started off as one of the counselors at Camp Exclamation Point. And it was set up originally up in Vermont for Vermont kids, and then it expanded to New Hampshire as well. And they work with children who are really in need of help. These are kids that are economically, socially, educationally disadvantaged.
18 years. Good for you, Scott.
Yeah, 18 years. And now he's one of the head people there. And he's a awesome guy. And his wife, Robin, everyone there at the camp volunteers their time. And I've got, I started probably 12, 13 years ago. And I started telling stories. And when I heard about the camp, it was like, I'm not going to charge. And I went for a late afternoon and all through the night. And we went really late that first year. I think I got into trouble.
You always get into trouble.
I'm always getting into trouble. You know that.
Yeah.
So I have to say that Antonio is kind of like a big brother to me. I actually created a little banner.
But you're older.
I know. That's what's so funny about it. Because when we went to Timpanogos,
I don't know how old you are. I'm just giving you.
No, I think I am. I'm 50. I'm getting nearer to 60 now than 50. I crossed that threshold. Yeah, I'm an old.
You look 35.
I know. I have a painting up in the attic that ages for me.
I need one of those. I need one of those.
I know. I'm thinking of getting a haircut like yours because it's easier to manage on like this coronavirus times.
Yes.
Just whiz the. But anyway, I've been going to camp for all these years, and I've actually got. We always had 3 storytellers, and they started off as people that I knew locally who were friends of mine. But now I've got Odds Bodkin coming up to the camp to do stories for these kids with me, and Karen Pillsworth, and it's absolutely freaking awesome. And these kids have, they don't have anything. And for them to have, somebody like Odds Bodkin come and tell stories for them for an evening, it's just it's a life experience that they'll never forget, hopefully. It's just amazing. So that's anyway, Scott runs that place. So Robin, who's Robin?
And Tom Davis. Tom, you're asking who is, I mean, where am I, or where is Simon?
Where we are. That's because it was 2:00 and we were still trying to figure stuff out.
Oh.
Yes, we are double trouble, Jess. It's true. So Jess saw me at Stone Soup. There you go. And Antonio at the Storytelling Festival in Carolinas, in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Yes. When was that?
Gee, Laurinburg, North Carolina or South Carolina, Jess? Oh, yes, North Carolina. I know where that is. Yes, Laurinburg. Yes, it's very close to the state line. That's why I got confused.
Oh, okay.
There's Rock Hill. Rock Hill, South Carolina had a festival. They folded, from what I hear. And then Laurinburg is in North Carolina, near the state line with South Carolina, and yes, east of Rock Hill, east of Charlotte.
I have to say,
I got myself there, Jess. Jess, are you a storyteller?
So how long ago was that?
That was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Nice. You live in Florence, South Carolina. Very nice. And you're a storyteller? You're impressed.
She's impressed with your knowledge.
Why are you impressed?
I'm not sure.
I haven't done anything. I'm just reading what you're writing, Jess.
I know, but there's a huge delay. So maybe she's a professional storyteller. She's impressed with herself being a storyteller. She is. She's a storyteller. She just said. All right. So I hope we're not losing views at this particular point because we're just goofing around. Oh, with your knowledge of South Carolina. Yeah, I was impressed with that too, Jess. That was very impressive. The way he was like mapping it out in his mind and everything. But Antonio, you love airplanes.
I love geography.
Yeah.
My love for geography predates my love for aircrafts.
I suppose they go together well, though.
Yeah, I always like knowing where things are. And I always like knowing where things are in relationship to where I am. So when I travel, I like to know several states north of me, south of me, east of me, and that goes for countries. And so yes, I have a very good map in my head of North Carolina, especially because I've worked in Raleigh for the past 10 years, and Laurinburg and Charlotte, and been up to Asheville, and I've been to Children's Day west of Charlotte, up on the foothills of Appalachia, and what's the name? I forget the name of the town. Lovely town. And my oldest daughter just left North Carolina and is in Tennessee now doing the AT. She's hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Right. Yes. You told me about this the other week.
Yes.
That she's hiking the Appalachian Trail. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, she's done 450 miles so far. And yesterday she hiked 17 and a half miles.
That's
no,
excellent.
17.9, 18 miles. She was being very honest. She said, I hiked 17.9 miles. I said, that sounds like 18, because by the time you're done setting up your tent,
you've walked another 1/10 of a mile, right?
Exactly.
It's true. It's true. So Robin's here. Hello, Robin.
Hey, Robin. How are you? Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thanks, Robin. Your favorite.
That's a wonderful festival.
It is. I love that festival too. It's a great one. The workshops and your stories are amazing. The horse who saved 5 lives is in Della. 6. Well, she did put a question
more
mark.
Than 6 now, if you include the grandkids, right?
Oh, yeah, right. That's so cool.
Thank you, Robin.
It's good to have you here, Robin. So do you prefer paper maps or digital maps, or don't you have a preference?
I love paper maps.
I do too.
That's my preference. So that's the AT. I'm following my daughter with so I'm following her with a paper map, and in conjunction with the digital. I love Google Earth because of the 3D aspect of it.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a valley, and the valley looks like this when you look, and then you press a button and it goes.
Yeah, I love it.
Like, can go in there.
I think one of the first times we sat down together, there were 2 things that you were very excited to show me, and one of them was your airplane app, because you're like so into airplanes.
Yes.
And then the other thing was Google World, Google Earth.
Yes.
And we sat down in this hotel. I can't even remember where it was, but we were sitting. It might have been Sharing the Fire. I don't know. But we were sitting down in a cafeteria somewhere in the hotel, and you were like showing me all these things. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, though. Wanted a map. So Janice says, my mother always wanted a map. Whenever she came to visit me, she would know my town better. Yeah, right.
Yes.
I have a cruddy sense of direction, and I love maps because they can sometimes help me out. Although when I started gigging a lot, and I was going all over the place, after I drove an hour in the wrong direction away from home after a gig with my son in the back, who was about, I don't know, 8 at the time, I decided that I would invest in a GPS so that my wife wouldn't worry about me and my son in the car on the way back home from a gig.
Well, I have an interesting situation like that with driving in the wrong direction without a GPS. I left a school, and I was in Maryland, and I left the driveway of the school, and I took a left, which meant I was going north. And what I wanted to do was take a right and go south. So it was the end of the day. So the sun was low in the sky. And it was a very interesting thing. And the reason why I'm telling this is because of the brain. This was beyond intellect, I think. Beyond, my brain knew something was wrong with the picture. And the whole time I'm driving, and I swear I'm driving south, because that's where I was going. And that's what I told myself to do, is you got to go south. But the whole time I'm going north, opposite direction completely. So my brain starts to get uncomfortable with the visual. I start to get a sense of uneasiness. And the road was filled with trees. And then I caught up with my brain. It was exactly like that, the experience. I caught up with what my brain was trying to alert me of, which is the shadows were pointing in the wrong direction because the sun was to my left.
Oh, right. Yes.
And not to my right. That was one thing. But the big thing on the road were the shadows going to the east instead of going to, they're going to my, well, now it's opposite, but you know what I mean. The shadows were pointing in the wrong direction. To my anyway. So I said, "Oh no, I'm going north. Look at the sun." And then I looked at the sun. The sun was to my left, which meant I was going north. But yeah, so there's a lot of storytelling in mapping. I find it fascinating because once upon a time, once upon a time in a land far away from here. Where is that land far away from here? So there is a map in the story. Right when you start the story, I find that fascinating. Once upon a time, in a land far away from here. Now, far away from here, I like it to be outside of my imagination. I like to have a place for it. So, you know, and so there's geography in storytelling, and then there's geography inside the story when you start saying, you know, the king walked away from the castle, and the hippopotamus. Don't
leave us just hanging with the hippopotamus. Come on, you got to go further with that.
Well, if a hippopotamus, if the hippopotamus gets in the water and is appreciating the sunset, the hippopotamus, it's nice to have a picture that the hippopotamus is looking west,
right?
You know, and because you can actually, if the story is rich in detail in terms of where things are and where things are going, you could actually say the character is going south when the character is actually going north.
Right.
And so does it mean that you don't know where the story is, or does it mean that I don't know?
Yeah.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do. So when you do a gig at a school, do you figure out where north, south, east, and west is, so that if you tell a story that has directions in it, so he headed towards the sun, and then you can.
No,
you don't do that?
No, I don't need to do that. I don't think anybody needs to worry about that, because the west in a story, it's not in the school.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, that does. I do like to mention the if I know, I look outside and figure out where.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I was
just curious. Yeah.
But so this is good. Do we go to?
Do you want another comment?
A Q&A?
Jess is back. No, we're just going to keep chatting.
I think about telling a story like that, like I'm following a path through the story.
Yes, I agree with that too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I was telling the story. I was making a video for a library up in Barry, Vermont, yesterday. I spent most of the day doing it and editing it and all that kind of stuff. I was doing Jack and the Beanstalk, which I ended up not adding to the video because it was so long. But I have this picture of exactly what the land looks like, and where the sun is setting and rising, and what everything looks like in that place. And so it's like, almost, if somebody dropped me into the story, I'd know where I could, I'd know where to go, as long as the beanstalk was still there. If the beanstalk had been cut down, I'd be in deep trouble. But
there you go. Yeah.
You've got a show coming up tomorrow.
I do. I have a 1-hour Zoom tomorrow night at 7 East daytime, so 7:00 p.m. Right. And it's going to be a fun show.
Is it going to be this much fun?
That much fun.
It's going to be this much fun.
It's going to be that and beyond, more than that, actually, because there'll be some surprises. Actually,
you got some new stories? Is that what you're telling us?
No, what I do have some new stories, but some of the stories tomorrow night should be new for some people. I don't think I'm doing any. Like the new one I did last week. I don't think I'm going to do it again tomorrow night.
You're not talking about the
Kuala Lumpur.
You're not going to do that story again?
Should I do that again?
That's such a great story. Yes, you should.
I should repeat it.
Yeah, you should do it now.
No. I'm not prepared for that. No, it's not a type of story I can just wing it like this. You know that.
I do. That's what.
Where are you? You're there. I'm right. Gonna knock you. Bring your head over. Can you bring your head over? Yeah. Tung, tung.
Ow! Ow!
No,
that was such a good story. No, you need to keep doing that story. It's a fun story. I mean, if you want to, because I mean, I can't tell you what you need to tell and what you can't tell.
No, I think not enough people have watched it, so I think it will be fine to do it again tomorrow. I think, you see, that's one of the nice things about talking to you is that,
it's kind of mutual. I always, so Antonio and I were in this group together, which you may have heard about, TBD storytellers, which is kind of funny because everyone was like, what does a TBD stand for? Well, that's to be determined. Because we couldn't come up with anything more original than that. We kind of like the idea
it's nice.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know,
since a lot of things in the world are always to be determined, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Even
nothing is permanent ever.
That's right. The path of
taxes and death, those are the only two things that are the only things that change.
I would say that even those are not permanent.
Wow.
But yeah, so the show tomorrow night will be, for those listening, it will be 1 hour long, 7 o'clock. Pay what you can, but it'd be great to have you register before, so we know you're coming. And it will be an hour of fun stories. And
this is the link in big writing, in case you want to write it down.
For
Antonio's, not mine.
Oh, there it is.
Antonio's, yeah.
So you can take a screenshot right now of that link. And when you go to that link, you're going to see somebody else's name. You're going to see the name of Steve Doubt. Steve Doubt is the host. So some people go to the registration and they get nervous because it's not my name on the registration. It's Steve's name because he's the organizer of the event. He's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and part of the proceeds, half of the proceeds actually, are going to the guild in Ann Arbor. So
that's cool.
Yes, it's really nice.
And that's the base for the confabulation, right?
I believe so.
Oh no, that's further up north, maybe a little bit. I can't remember. Maybe it is there. I don't know. It's been a long time. I can't even think. Don't. What is it? Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Yes, go ahead.
One of the things I love about your work is that you do mime, and that always blows me away. The way that you just embody things. The first time I saw you telling stories, and I don't think I talked to you because I was new to the game and I was really intimidated. And you were doing the story of the panther. It was at Three Apples. Excuse me. It was at Three Apples Storytelling Festival all those years ago with Kevin and Laura. And you're on a little outside stage.
This was like in the 1990s. You saw me in the 1990s?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it was the late.
I've done that festival twice.
Yeah, but anyway, I just watching you embody that panther. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, but I'm not doing any mime on this segment. You know why?
Because there's not enough space.
No, because you'll be in thousands of pieces. Because you said you get blown away every time I do mime. I'm concerned for your health.
It's true. Oh no! I'm just thinking about it. I'm being blown away. Oh no! I've been blown away.
Oh, I'm messing up my background here. Okay,
it's all right.
Now you know where I am. Oh no! I've been discovered.
Oh dear.
Oh, it's so good to be here with you. We have
no more people. We're getting some chuckles though. That's good. I always like to see chuckles when they appear. So how are you keeping sane through all this COVID coronavirus time?
Good question. How do I keep sane?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm of the belief system, and please reply to what I'm going to say next, because this is a very interesting topic for me, and your reaction to it is very important.
You're talking to me, or you're talking to everybody who's out there?
To everybody who is listening right now.
So that's all you lot out there who are watching.
500 people watching? How many?
Yeah, 700.
No, but do you have a number? I don't have a number. I don't know how many people. I only see 4 people on the screen. Okay.
700.
700. So how do I keep sane?
Yeah.
I keep sane. What I'm learning with this COVID world is that we've never had a sense of what was going to happen in the future anyway.
Right.
That's a delusion. Mm-hmm. It's the future is good for making appointments calendar-wise. It's like I have a dentist appointment. I have a show tomorrow night. So that's what the future is good for in terms of trying to control anything whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
The best control we can have of the future, if any, is by the actions we do on a daily basis, because that's when actually everything happens in life.
Right.
Everything happens in life in the present moment. And the present moment is very fleeting. You're talking about a split second, right? So your actions are always here,
mm-hmm.
and creating memories. So here's the present moment, and behind it, so I'm going backwards here to make sense to you guys. So behind is memories. And so we don't have anything to the future, but the present experience. For example, let's say you need a new car.
Mm-hmm.
You need a new car. So planning to buy a new car is in the future. Let's say you're going to buy a new car next month. In 4 weeks, you're going to go there and get the new car. That's in the future.
Right.
But you don't know if it's going to happen until you have the car. We have this delusion that we know exactly what's going to happen all the time.
Right.
And if you look back in your history on Earth so far, you not everything that you plan to have happen has happened.
Right.
So, including COVID, nobody was planning for this thing to happen, and it happened.
No, they weren't.
Right. So it turned the world upside down. Right.
Yeah.
It turned the world upside down. So we had all these other plans for this year, and it didn't happen because of other things are happening.
Right.
So we need to pay attention always to what is happening in the now, because the only time we're going to have opportunities, the only time we're going to find happiness, the only time we're going to find a good state of mind is in the present, not with something that's going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. Because when it happens in the future, it's not the future anymore. It's the now.
Right. Yeah.
Today's Friday. Right now, it's 2:38 East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
When we wake up, let's even forget about tomorrow morning. Tonight, when we sit down to have dinner, mm-hmm. we're going to say, "Ooh, this is nice now. This is the now." Wake up tomorrow morning. We're not going to say tomorrow is Saturday. We're going to say today is Saturday. Right. So this is what I try to do to keep my head somewhere sane all the time. More now, so with COVID, is the fact that opportunities will always be in the now, and I need to focus on the now so that I create good memories, because we want to have good memories so we don't carry burdens.
Right.
And we don't want to be in the future with our minds, because the mind is not programmed to grasp the future. So that's where anxiety comes in. The not knowing creates anxiety, and you cannot know what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
So you do your best. You live the now the best way you can. And another great example is eating. You know, it's like if you're eating thinking about what you're going to do after lunch, then you don't enjoy your food, and you finish your food and you don't even know what you ate, which
Right.
leads you to want to have seconds when you don't need seconds.
Right. That's yes.
Yeah, I have a big one too. I don't have a what do you call it? A six pack. I have a beer keg.
Oh,
and I don't drink. I don't drink that much.
I
beer.
don't either. So you might like this. As a quick aside to what you're talking about, when I go into schools and I talk about the importance of reading and how the brain is a muscle, you need to exercise the muscle, blah blah blah. And I tell them the story of like when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I had an 8-pack, you know, and they're like, "What's an 8-pack?" It's like when you have those muscles that are defined right down at your hips, you know. And then I was like, you know, I stopped working out as much because I was living in the city of Portland, Oregon. I worked in a coffee shop, so I was eating a lot more in the way of high fat foods. And it turned into a 6-pack, and then it turned into a 4-pack, and then it turned into a barrel. But then it got even worse when I had kids, and it just turns into a bag of wine inside the box of wine.
That's great. That's great. But Tom wrote something very interesting here.
Yeah. It's Karen, but yeah, it's Tom's account, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is Karen. Okay, yes. We do have imagination and visions of what we wish and dream. That's absolutely right. We do have our wishes and our dreams, but the only time we can enjoy those dreams and when they come true is not in the future.
Right.
It's in the now.
The dream is in the now. Right. The wish is in the now.
And the fulfillment of it is enjoyed in the now, not in the future.
It is. And going back to your car thing. So my car was getting a bit old, and Aiden needed a car. And so instead of buying one, used one for him, we decided to give him my old car and I would get a new one. And so Aiden came with me so that he could drive the old car back. And we were talking on the phone. We have hands-free phone devices. Well, as we were driving together in the car, we're driving up, and he was like, "What kind of car do you want?" And I was like, "Well, you know, I love my Corolla, so I'd like another Corolla. It has to be a manual. I really want a manual because I like to drive the car and not just cruise." And I had the bottom of the range car. I mean, it had key entry and everything. I said it would be nice if it had locks on it, because I realized how much I missed those when I lost that. And I said, I'd really like a blue one because I like blue cars. And if it had a sunroof, it would be brilliant. And we arranged to go to Nashua, to the car dealership there. But where I bought the last car, the gray one that we were driving, was in Concord. And I said, well, let's pop into Concord. It's smaller. They might not have what we're looking for, but, you know, I like the people there and I'd like to support them. So let's just go and see. So we get there and I say, do you have any manual cars? And they said, yes, we've only got the one. And he said, let me go and check on it. And he came back. He said, I'm not sure if this is something that you want, but it's manual, it's blue, and it's got a sunroof. And I was like, that'll be it. I looked at Aiden and I said, do we take it for a test drive, or do we just say yes to it now and go home with it? He said, well, we'll take it for a test drive. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. You know, it's like you can wish for these things, and sometimes those wishes come true. Absolutely. Wishing is perfect. And it's necessary. I know right now we're all wishing for this thing to go away. And so right now we need to practice a lot of positive wishing more than ever before. Number one is good for your immune system. It's good for your spirits. And I'm a believer in that when you wish for something, that because everything is energy, so that wish goes out into the world, right? Yeah. Oh, totally believe that. But what I'm saying is, whenever your wish comes true, it's not going to be in the future. It's going to be in that present time. Right. And how you deal with it, how you deal with either the fulfillment of a dream or not the fulfillment of a dream, is extremely important, because that will create something you have for the rest of your life, which is a memory. So do you want to pile up bad memories because it's how you react to something that makes it bad? Not the thing itself. It's how you react to it. Right. It's what makes it bad. So you want to create bad memories, or you want to create good memories,
right? So right now we need to practice a lot of kindness, so that we don't pile more negativity into something that's already negative, right?
Yeah, we do.
So, and that's what the world needs right now. It's people to be kind, people to be patient, and deal with it the best way possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
there's still so much hate being thrown around, but I don't want to get into that right now. Let's talk about happy, fun things.
But Jess Willis said, "Shut up, Jess Willis."
Oh, that was ages ago. That's when I was busting.
What happened?
I was busting her chops.
Oh. Okay.
I was just messing.
I'm stuck in the past.
You are. You got to get up with the program.
I'm in Maine. Somebody asked where I am or where you are. I'm in Maine, and Simon's in New Hampshire.
Right.
Simon here is in New Hampshire.
I am. I'm right.
He's here for me, but on the screen he's there. Any questions?
No, I think we're getting some nice comments here. I think Tom Karen nailed it on the head. We can dream that you may be on the stage in Woodruff in the future. That's right.
Yes.
But when you're in it, you're in the now. Exactly. And then Scott, my buddy Scott, he also said something along the same thing. Your thoughts are manifested into the world. Awesome. Yeah, it's true. I think they are. Right. I mean, they don't happen willy-nilly. You have to make them happen. Right. I mean, like that car, it's like I had to go and look for the car, even though I wanted it, you know.
But something led you to that place.
And this is, right. And this comment right here, this one right there.
Yes.
Is really important.
Appreciation of what's all around. Very important. Very important. Yes, we have so much.
Boop, boop.
We have so much.
We do.
And there are those who don't have enough. Mm-hmm. But for people who have enough, we need to be appreciative of those things.
Yeah.
And you have to be a period. Even if you don't have a lot, whatever you have, we have to appreciate it, because that is the foundation through which we can achieve other things. You know?
No, I agree.
It's like
there is always someone better off than you, and there is always someone worse off than you, no matter how badly off you are.
That's an interesting concept. That concept is I find that concept very interesting, because it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Because one that we need to be careful is that, for example, racism. That's I'm going to tap into that, but not in. I'm not going to go into a negativity energy here. Okay. I'm just going to analyze it. Okay. For centuries, some white folks have been told that no matter how bad it gets to them, this was a law, actually. It was instituted through law and then through propaganda. No matter how bad things are for them, at least you're not black. Oh, people have been told that through centuries, you know. No matter how bad it gets to you, that's a propaganda of manipulation.
Yeah.
That sometimes we forget about it. And that's, I think, a lot of this discourse, this thing that we say, oh, things are bad for me, but there are people who are in worse situation, right? Mm-hmm. I think that part of this comes from that thinking. What do you think, Simon?
It could be, yeah. I mean, I've not heard that. I mean, I don't know if that's an American thing or if it's something.
It's part of American history.
Okay.
Yeah. In the 1600s. In the 1600s, in the beginning, in the colonial era, there were white workers from England who were the bottom line of English society that came over to the U.S., and they were pretty much treated almost in equal level to that of blacks, to the slaves. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Then there was a rebellion, the Bacon Rebellion, in the 1600s, and then new laws were were put into place in the 1600s, and those laws said, okay, we're going to treat the white folks slightly better, so blacks, Native Americans, and Asians Black, Native Americans, Asians couldn't marry, couldn't hold office. They couldn't
Right.
have, they couldn't have high-end jobs. They couldn't own property, actually,
Right.
and they could not marry a white person. So that was the beginning of the difference, the in the way I see it,
Yeah. Yeah.
of
I mean, they didn't.
manipulating people to say, you can be suffering financially and health-wise, but at least you're white. That was kind of the beginning of the whole thing.
Right. I think in England it was more about the Irish.
Yes, yeah. In England, yes.
and the Irish, I mean, there was this whole
different countries do different things.
right. And my heritage is Irish, a few generations back, but one of the things that I found interesting, my dad and I, when I was making a visit, this was probably like 10 years ago now, and I was over in the UK, and we're driving in his car and we're listening to this radio program. It was kind of like NPR History Channel type of thing. And they were talking about these people being dragged from their homes and beaten. And I was like, what, is this like about Africa? What is this? And he said, no, this is about the Irish in London in the, like, I don't know, 1600s or whatever it was. And it's like, I had no idea about any of that. And when I discovered that, it's like, all right, I need to educate myself better on what's going on. Right. And a lot of Irish people became indentured servants, which is, it's the same as slavery. And if they had kids, those kids would become the property of the people that they were working for. So it was a very similar situation for the Irish as the people that were brought over from Africa and other places. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a really interesting subject. I mean, it really is. And it's just, there's so many different facets to it. It's horrendous what the British Empire did to the world.
It's incredible. Over the years, and they're still doing it, to a certain extent. The one thing that I try to get to is, wouldn't it be wonderful to visualize a world in which nobody's lacking?
Yeah.
Nobody's lacking.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a lot of money, it's because they're probably offering a product that 2 billion people want to have it. Right. And that's how they get to make their money, not because they're keeping people from having basic needs.
Right.
I mean, there's a difference there.
Yeah.
You have a brilliant idea, you create a product, everybody wants that product, you become a millionaire or a billionaire through it.
That's like bottled water.
Well, you see, that's
nobody needed that. And now look at it. This is like, exactly. What was it? The 70s, 80s, and it's become one of the biggest pollutants. Anyway, let's not talk about it.
Let's not go there. Any questions about
I like what Nicolette Heavey, Nicolette Norden Heavey, she says, you know Nicolette, don't you? You must know Nicolette. She's excellent. She's a fun woman. She does great work with kids.
Hi, Nicolette. Yeah. What stories speak to you because they mirror this philosophy? Okay, thank you for bringing us back, my dear. Yeah. Yes, this is good. But it's good because the things we've been talking prior propelled you to ask that question, right?
Right. Yeah.
One story I love very much is that it's a story from India, and I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
It's a beautiful story. It's just way too long for me to do now, but I can talk about it. Is this hermit that he lives in the woods, and he comes to the village to buy supplies every once in a while. And there's a gang of boys who despise him because he's told, he's known in the village for being a wise person, but he likes to live in the woods. And these kids decide to taunt him. They just, oh, he's so smart. Let's see how he lives. So they find a path that leads to his house, and they get there, and they say, you're so smart. The man is very fragile, very old, and lives in a small cottage, has a garden. And the boys get there, and they're like, you're so smart. And they always give him they ask him something for him to answer, like a riddle. They always have a riddle. And this is a great story for, youth because of the riddles, and you can complicate the riddles. If you're going to tell it to older people, you can just make them more,
intellectual,
whatever it was. So they go on, the men answers. So you better come back with another one. You better come back with a better riddle than that, because I know a lot of riddles. And the boys leave upset, and they go back and they find another riddle, and they return to the old man. They always interrupt the old man doing something like gardening, taking care of his house. He's always doing something nice. And the old man, it keeps answering the riddles, and the boys get the riddles harder and harder, until the gang leader decides to really find a way to trick the men, so that no matter what, he can't answer it right.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings a bird in his hand, and he puts the bird behind his back. And he asks the old man, what is it that he's holding? And the hermit looks at him, smells the air, looks into the eyes of the other boys. And it's always a mystery, but he says, it's a bird you have in your hand. Now, the young man holding the bird is extremely upset that how can this man know I have a bird? The bird is not singing. The bird is not doing anything. And he knows I've got a bird. And his level of anger goes to a level even his mates had never seen before. And his eyes narrow. The old man backs away from him a little bit. And the gang leader says, all right, it's a bird, but is it dead or alive?
Oh, geez.
And his friends go, his friends are like, they are even like,
yeah,
I can't believe you're going to do this, because now the young man has the old man.
Yeah.
Because if the old man says the bird is dead, he's going to produce the bird alive.
Right.
If the old man says the bird is alive, he's going to kill the bird.
Right.
He's going to prove the old man wrong, no matter what. And the old man looks at him very calmly and says, the answer to that lies within your own hands.
Oh, I love that.
I just love that story.
Yes. That's such a good story.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, it is.
I always get touched when I tell, even talking about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because that is what we do with our lives.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I've been talking about for the past 10 minutes about believing in the now,
right,
and being kind and doing the best we can. Because the answer to humanity doesn't lie in the hand of a politician.
Yeah, it lies with us.
It lies with us.
Yeah.
We are humanity. We are humanity.
Yeah.
And so we need to inform ourselves and be kind to one another, and understand that in order for humanity to move forward, the answer is within our own hands.
Yeah, it is. And the small voices do count. They really do.
And the boy lets the bird go. Something shifts in him. Sorry.
That's all right. You can end it either way. You can end it on that cliffhanger, or you can end it with the boy lets it go.
Yeah, I like the fact that when I tell it to kids, I do like to say that he lets the bird, that something shifts inside for the first time he understands responsibility. That the gang leader understands responsibility, and he lets the bird go, makes the good choice, and they become the old man's friend. They learn about gardening. They learn about carpentry. They become the old man's, the hermit's, what do you call it? apprentices, right?
Oh, cool. I like that.
Which is
If
nice, you know.
it is, you could also use the story as a talking point, because you could stop it where you stopped it and say, "What do you think the boy does?"
Yes, that's a great.
And that would be powerful.
Very powerful,
You know.
and that would be great for high schoolers and middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Actually any age, really.
Right. Yeah.
When you think about it, yeah.
I know, especially maybe not especially in this time, but yeah, exactly. There's an Indian. There's some really good Indian. I love Indian stories. Yeah. There's a story that, going back to Nicolette's question.
Responsibility. I feel
yeah.
like that there's a lesson that needs to be sent out to the world right now, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people agree with that. No matter what side of the fence you're on, everybody's saying the same thing. There's another Indian story which is about responsibility, and also about what not knowing what the future is, or necessarily not knowing what the truth is. And it's a story of I don't tell it very often, but it's one of my favorite stories, which is probably why I don't tell it very often. But it's the story untold, the song unsung. And it's about this woman who knows this story, knows the song, doesn't sing the song, doesn't tell the story. And her husband's at work, she's at home, and the story, the song leaves her, and it turns itself into a coat and hangs itself on the back of the door. And she's sleeping when this happens. And then the story is like, well, I'm not going to be left alone. So the story leaves as well, and it turns itself into a pair of boots and lands next to the door. And the husband comes home, and she wakes up, and she's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm great. How are you?" And then he turns around and sees there's a coat that's not his and a pair of boots that's not his. And for the first time ever, they argue about, you must know whose these are. And she's like, "I have no idea." "And you've been here all day?" "Yes." "And I don't know whose they are." And they get into this massive argument, and he leaves. And because he moved to his wife's village, there's nowhere that he can really stay. So he goes to stay the night at the temple of the monkeys, Hanuman's temple. And he hears in the middle of the night these flames. Well, actually, he hears these voices, and he goes to see what these voices are, and they're flames, because the spirits of the flames go to the temple at night when they're extinguished. And this one flame comes in really late, and it starts talking about, how this man comes home and he thinks his wife's betrayed him, and all of the flames are like, "Oh yeah, I can totally, what's she thinking?" And of course she knows whose coat and boots they are. And the guy's listening to this, the man's listening to this, and he's like, "This is me. They're talking about what happened to me and my wife." And then the flame says, "Yes, but that's not the whole story. The whole story is that she knew a song and didn't sing it. And so it left her and turned itself into the coat.
Mm-hmm.
She knew a story and never told it. So the story left her and turned itself into a pair of boots." And when he hears this, it's too late to go home, but he goes back the next morning. And he goes to her and apologizes and said, "I didn't know this. This is what I heard at the temple." And he says, "Could you tell me the story? Could you tell me the song? Could you sing me the song?" But she'd thrown the coat and the boots out, and the story and the songs had left her. And I end the story by saying, so if you know a story, tell it. And if you know a song,
sing it.
Sing it.
And that's what you need to do with this story. He said you don't tell it very often. You should tell it more often then.
Yeah, well, I tell it at the right time.
There you go. Yes, of course. Always at the right time. Yes.
Oh,
That's the secret of good storytelling, by the way. It doesn't matter, and I'm being very honest about this. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how wonderful the story is. The story, your job as a storyteller, I should say my job as a storyteller, because I don't want to be telling people what to do. But what I've discovered in these past years is, if I don't do a good job matching the story with the listener is not going to listen to it.
Right. I totally agree with that. And you'll turn people off.
Turn people off. A simple example. Both of the stories we just told or talked about here right now, are not suited for 5-year-olds.
No.
there's nothing inappropriate with them. It's just that the subject matter and their developmental level don't match.
Right.
So you're going to waste a great story on a 5. You're going to lose the audience.
Right. The teachers will be happy.
The teachers will be happy, but they'll still be going, this is not good for my kids. They're there for their kids, right?
Yeah.
And so you might not get invited back to that school. You do that in a festival, then your reputation starts to dissipate. And you could be like award winner storyteller and know how to tell really well, but if you don't match it, if you're not a good listener, I've seen storytellers do that. They say, I wasn't planning. It's sometimes it's for the wrong reason. It's for the me reason, not the you reason, right?
Yeah.
If you tell a story to serve you only, and you're not listening to the audience. So when I teach, I tell my students, it's like, all stories you tell, you should like them. Because
if possible,
then,
love them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the right word. You got to love your stories. But when you tell them, your job is not to satisfy yourself. It's to try to match that repertoire, something from that repertoire, to the listener before you. Right?
Right.
I think that then it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation,
Yeah, well, I did that with, Robin will tell you this. When I was at the Florida Storytelling Festival, there were a bunch of really young kids there in the front row. There's a bunch of families, basically. And the first couple of storytellers started telling us stories that were great for the majority of the audience, but they weren't good for the families necessarily. I mean, they were doing a great job, and the majority of the audience it was perfect for. And so I was like thinking, all right, I got to do some stories for these kids who are here, right? I gotta cater to them. So I'm like furiously going through my notes, thinking, what stories can I tell? What stories can I tell? And they, just as the one woman was finishing, they started to get up and leave, and I'm like, no, stay. But yeah, and I think they enjoyed it. I don't know, but yeah, it's like you have to, if there's a group of us telling for the same audience, I think we can pick up the slack where somebody might be dropping off, or we might be able to pull something out of the bag that might be for a group of people that aren't being catered to. So, and I think at this particular event, each of the tellers that told that night, we told for certain parts of that audience, and it was absolutely freaking amazing. It was so good because there were people there from all sorts of demographics, all sorts of mindsets, and there were teens there that wanted to hear something. There were elderly people there that wanted to hear some types of stories, and there were like these families that wanted to hear stories. And I think the 5 of us that were performing that night, we were able to speak to each one of those groups that were in the audience, and it was just dynamite. It was just one of my highlights of my storytelling career was that Saturday night. I don't know. I agree with you, Antonio.
You mean Tuesday night?
Yes, we were. Tom just said you're in the now, and yes, we were. We were totally in the now, and we were feeding off of each other like crazy. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Robin did say something. Yeah, it was a fun night. Yeah, I've actually got the poster up. I don't normally put posters of festivals up in my garage, but it's up in my garage. So there.
Good.
So anyway, do you want to tell a story?
I just did. No, I didn't. I'd love to tell a story.
Excuse me.
This is a story. Let me see. Let me see if I can do with this on. I think I can do.
There you go. That's yeah.
Can you hear me from here?
Yeah. Not very well, though.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Did you unplug them?
Okay. I'll do it here. Is it better?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Please welcome Antonio Rocha.
Hey. All right. So I was a long time ago performing at the Kearney Storytelling Festival. It was January, and I was in Nebraska, in the middle of the state of Nebraska, in Kearney, performing at their festival. It was wintertime, long time ago. And there's a highway that goes through Kearney that is connects Omaha to Denver. It goes from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to Denver, Colorado. And over this highway, there's a Pioneer Museum. It's a Pioneer Museum. It looked like a covered bridge, like the ones we have here in New England, but super large. And it spanned the entire highway. And actually, I thought it was a covered bridge, and I was actually approaching it by car. I'm like, what is a covered bridge doing over a highway? And as I approached it, it was the Pioneer Museum. And what was interesting that happened that day, there were two things that happened that day. One was the fact that I went to the movies that same evening, that same day in the evening, and I watched a movie called About Smitch with Jack Nicholson. Yeah. And Jack Nicholson plays a person who lives in Omaha, Nebraska in the movie. And one day in the movie, he's driving from Omaha to Denver, Colorado, and he drives underneath the museum and is filled with curiosity, and he pulls over and visits the museum. So that day that I visit the museum in the morning, I visit the museum through the eyes of Jack Nicholson's character in the evening. That had never happened before nor since. But while I was in the museum in the morning visiting, I learned a lot about the pioneers that had gone through that part of the country. It was really, really well put together, the exhibit. There were documents, there were artifacts, there were, motion characters, like you see in Disney World,
like animatronics.
Animatronics, that's right. That's the right word, see? And I approached this exhibit that there was a stage coach there, and the horse was going like this. The horse was wild, and the stage coach driver was holding the reins in his chest, and there's the man riding shotgun was actually had a gun pointing towards something or somebody. The scene was very intense from a distance. And so I approached it, and I learned two things. One was the story behind the exhibit, and that I had been saying state coach my entire life and not stage coach. You see? That was very interesting because English is my second language. If you haven't understood that, now you do. I was born in Brazil, and I always said state coach. And I think it's because I learned English in a British school in Brazil, and we talked about the England, the royal family going around on state coaches. So I always said it was a state coach. But that day, it's written right there, loud and clear, stage coach. I was like, oh, a new word. Okay, this is very neat. So I started reading the story. It was fascinating how this stage coach was taking gold from one part of the West to another part of the West. And the coach was going to go through a canyon filled with bandits, people waiting to ransack and steal all the goods. And since there was a lot of gold in this stage coach, he hired a shotgun to ride with him, to bodyguard to protect the load and his life. So they're going, they're going through the West, and are you ready? Are you ready? Because this is very dangerous here, and we're about to enter the canyon. And they're going, and they enter the canyon, and the sun only followed them so far. There's shadows growing everywhere, coyotes on the ridge. Huge tarantulas crossing the path, and kites crossing the sky. I mean, they're just going and said, be at the ready. There are bandits. There are thieves everywhere in this canyon. I know they're here somewhere. And the men, engaged the rifle, and he just waited. and waited. And sure enough, they come across this curve, and I was glued to this story. I just, flipping the pages, and reading this amazing story of the West. And they see this thief. The thief is standing there, and the thief has a gun, and the scarf is going, in the wind like that. And the man stops the stagecoach, and the horse goes, "Wah!" This is the picture. This is the setup. This is the display I'm looking at. This is exact. And the man turns to the shotgun. Shoot him. Otherwise, we're going to get killed, and he's going to steal the gold. Shoot him. And the man aimed and aimed and aimed and aimed and aimed and aimed. He said, I can't do it. Why not? He's only this big. He's only this big. I'm going to miss. I can't even see the whites of his eyes. I'm going to miss for sure. He's like, okay. They keep going. They come another curve. They come around this other curve, and he's this big now. He's this big. And shoot him. Otherwise, he's gonna kill us both. And I can't see the whites of his eyes. I'm going to miss. He's only this big, And they keep coming around the curve and keeping on. And the man keeps getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. Shoot him. Look, he's full size now. Just get rid of him. He's going to kill us both and steal the gold. I can't do this. What do you mean you can't do this? I'm paying you to do it. Even I can't see the whites of his eyes. Even I can see him. The whites of his eyes. Just shoot him. I can't. Why not? Because I've known him since he was this big.
Oh, you scallywag.
Scallywag. I'm a scallywag today.
Dude, you had me totally and utterly.
Oh, stop it. But here's the thing. Though. There's a lot of truth to that story.
Yeah, there is.
90% of it was true. You see that I've always loved that joke. I've always loved that joke. For years, I've known that joke for, I think, over 30 years. So I go to Kearney, Nebraska for the festival. That's part of, I go to the movies, and there's Jack Nicholson, playing.
Oh, right, in the movie. Yeah.
It's all true. Mm-hmm. It's all true, and he stops at the same museum I had stopped earlier. And I kept thinking about that. And that day was the day I learned that new word in English, stagecoach. Until then, the word for stagecoach in Portuguese, it's diligência.
And what does that mean?
It means stagecoach.
Okay, I just know that sometimes it means something different.
I know.
Oh, okay.
And diligência. I'm going to actually ask Mr. Google right now to see if that maybe there is another, because that was the word when I was a kid. So let me see. This is interesting.
Because I know that a lot of English words, or there are a lot of words out there in the world in other languages that English has no comparable word for.
Yes,
I think a lot of that is to do with the culture.
Yes,
and how it's like this capitalistic culture, the capitalistic mindset, and so we don't have that particular word in our vocabulary, in our language, because it's from a culture that it has a completely different view of life. Anyway.
Look, this is it. Stagecoach. That word there, you say diligência.
Diligencia.
Diligencia. Yeah, that's the diligencia. It's still the same word. So that day, I found that coincidence huge. Number one, I learned a new word. Number two, there's the coincidence of being in the museum and then seeing the museum later in a movie. And there was a stagecoach display inside. A Pioneer. There was a wagon, and there was a stagecoach. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to put that joke with this one, with this true story?
Mm-hmm. It got me. It got me.
I know it's a joke with a punchline, but there's truth in it.
When you know someone, it's harder to hurt them. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, wouldn't that be nice that not knowing someone, so what you just said is an interesting thing. So when we know somebody, it's harder to hurt them. But wouldn't it be nice if we all knew somebody, if we all knew everybody else through our own lens, who I am as a person, the essence of humanity in me is in that person that I don't know. Even if that person is broken, right?
I think we're all broken to some degree.
Absolutely. That's why we're here on Earth.
Right.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that hasn't got a little crack somewhere, a little chip somewhere.
And
I got a chip right there.
Yeah. I won't show you guys my chip.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
We've been going on for a long time. We've done
We've been going
an hour and 11 minutes.
An hour and 11 minutes. And you guys, we still have 7, or are we down to 2 people?
We're down to, no, we got 6. We got 600 people watching still, which is great.
No, this is wonderful. It doesn't matter the quantity. It's especially when it's in a situation like this. Do you guys have any questions out there you'd like to ask me or Simon?
Yeah.
I'm not hosting the show, but I can ask, I guess, right?
But he's taking over.
No, I'm not. What? No, the
Antonio and I are very good friends, and so it's all good.
Let me go back. The proper way. Simon, what's next? What's next?
People can ask either of us questions if they have any for us.
Okay. You see, I was just reading his mind. That's all.
So what do we got? Bits and pieces. We are. Yes, we all are. We all have bits and pieces. That's true. And Scott says his wife Robin is also listening. Yay. Just thinks that we were pretty good. I like that. Well, we did start late, but we didn't start. I don't normally go for this long, to be honest, Janice. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And we haven't walked in the other person. Yes, yeah, I think that's really important. We can never assume what that other person is thinking or doing, or what they've experienced in their life to make them think the way that they think. And sometimes that we can, anyway, I have long conversations with my son about these subjects.
Yeah.
And we're living through exceptional times, I think. It's a very interesting time that we're living through. But I hope that Antonio and I have put some smiles on your faces, and that you've enjoyed our banter. You've enjoyed us chilling out together. This is what we do anyway. I mean, this is like a real normal conversation for Antonio and me. And please remember that Antonio does have a show tomorrow. So if you really enjoyed
tell everybody about it. Please tell. It'll be fun. There'll be some so that's some wacky things.
He's a great storyteller. I love him to death.
And
I'll give you that link again. Where is it? There it is. Boop. So if you want to go and see Antonio, you have to go to this link. It'll be to Steve Dort. But
Dort. I think Dort. It's Dort, right? Yes.
Yeah, I think it could be, yes.
Yeah, Steve Dort.
So you can go and visit Antonio and see his 1-hour show of laughs and thrills and spills. So excellent. Thanks for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you, all you listeners, for being listeners and watchers, you voyeurs, you. Thanks for
all
go on, you say it.
Well. No, thank you all as well. I just wanted to thank everybody.
Yeah. We should start our own show.
We should.
Be like Stanford and Son or something like that.
And we should do this. We should start the show like this.
Oh, yes.
Can you imagine? And we talk. Hello, everybody. So now we have.
Hang on. Oh, blimey, it's hard.
It is.
There you go.
That's hilarious. That would be really funny if we could really do it really well.
All right, let's try that. I'm sliding off my chair now, so I can do it.
There you go. little bit out, a little not too far. There, in a little. Hey, everybody. Just to start.
Oh, we could go on for another 2 hours. Antonio, it was great seeing you. Thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you on Wednesday if you come to my Wednesday stories. I will see you on Friday if you don't like the kids stuff and you just want to see me talk to people like Antonio. And go visit Antonio's website, Story in Motion, because I didn't put that up yet. Where is it? There it is. Story in Motion. And there are videos there, and all the information that you need about him is going to be there. Thanks for being here.
All right. Take care. Ciao.